Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I always have to think what day it is when I do that. Today we are going to be continuing on with our Made with Xata project. So this will be fun. Yesterday we started connecting it to the back end. So today we'll keep on keeping on. So I'm just trying to get my screen in a good place to share and we can get into it. So, yesterday we started briefly looking at the admin screen. Let me pull that up. Here is our code. Looks like I ran into an error when I wrapped up. Oh, let's do yarn dev. Perfect. And if we take a look at what we have, so this is on localhost 3000. Here's our project. So yesterday we connected our cards very easily to the to Xata, which is awesome. And then we started briefly to look at the admin panel. So right now it's not protected. I can just jump over to admin. This is hard coded in. But what I've done here is we've started to list out all of our projects. So we can make this dynamic because right now it's not, and go from there. So here we have, we're using Next.js on the front end. And so I'm making use of the app directory, which has been fun to get my hands dirty with that. So here is the admin panel. We have our page.tsx file where we are rendering out our project grid twice right now. And this is using our mocked data that we're using with our test in a in our project grid component. So this is an actual data. So let's pull this in from Xata. So I'm going to jump over to our gallery where we have our, hey, Cyan God, what is up? Good to see you. We're still working on our Xata project. So here we have our gallery. This is what we started doing last week or earlier in the week, whenever we started working on it. And I have here where we're making that call to the API. So I'm just going to, actually, I don't even need to copy this because what I can do is I can come over to Xata and generate exactly what I'm looking for. I'm gonna log in, pull up my project, and here are all the projects that I've loaded in, but really I only have these two that are approved so far. So all these other projects will appear in the unapproved section at the bottom. So what I want to do is I want to filter this by is approved. And I want to say when it's true. This is going to be for the section at the top. And I'm going to, oh, check that, I accidentally hit the back button. And hit get code snippet. So this tells me I have to import Xata at the top of my file. So I'm going to jump over to my admin page.tsx file. And here, let's import that. And then I'm going to come over and I want to grab our client. So I'm going to copy this. And I think with the, I am using Next. So, and this is Next 13. So I'm able to use the app folder. I don't have a pages directory. So all of this is server components. And what's interesting, I've really enjoyed doing that, but you can't use state when you're doing React. You can't use that with server components. It has to handle all that state on the front end. So the only issue or the only time that's really been an issue is I added my project grid component and was getting an error. And that's because I am passing in these functions to my project row component. And it was like, you can't do that. And it's because I have to have use client. So that basically says this component has to run on the client side. And then as soon as I did that, it was fine. So if you want to use state in your components that are running on the server, you just have to add that use client. Yeah. Have you used Next 13 at all? I am a huge fan of SvelteKit, and I know that both projects are being managed by Vercel. And so a lot of the latest stuff with SvelteKit 1 has pulled from Next 13's spec, like, before they released it. So it looks like SvelteKit came out with it first, but I think it was really in the RPC for Next. But it was this whole idea of using these page and layout files within a folder structure. The only thing I will say that I do like better about SvelteKit is with SvelteKit, it uses a plus page.tsx file. So that would look like this. And it uses it's going to break my code. You're going to see it go crazy in a second. And it also uses a plus layout file. And the thing that I like about SvelteKit is the fact that these two files appear at the top of your directory structure. Got it. These two files appear at the top of your directory structure. So it becomes very easy to find exactly what you're looking for, because what you can do is you can have any components that you're using on that page directly within that folder. So it's nice, like this header component is only going to appear in the admin page on this admin page. This footer component is only going to appear here. So anything that's being shared is still in this components directory. But anyways, that structure knocks my layout and my page files down. Yeah, that's a great question. So the parentheses, what that does is it groups a route. So for example, this file, it's a folder-based structure. So that means that instead of saying, like in your pages directory, you have pages, and then you have, say, app.tsx or .jsx, and that that admin file becomes your route. Actually, let me pull this up. I started messing with another project, and I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. You're probably following, but just to be explicit about it, give me just a second. Let me pull this up. Okay. Just a little project I'm working on. So this is Next 13, and I'm using an app directory and a pages directory. So with pages, you have this would be /about, this will be /contact, this will be /features, and you can have the pages directory and the app directory live next to each other, which is pretty cool. So in this particular project, I have my marketing pages and pages because they're more static, and I can have control over like get server side props, whatever. But I also have my app directory. So that's using React server-side components. And so this is a file-based routing structure, and you can't have any extra components in here because the file name determines the URL. With your app directory, this is going to be /notifications, or this is going to be /dashboard, or let's see if I can find one that has, okay, this has subpages. So this will be /settings/account or /settings/billing. But I might want to group, and like I can control the layout for this if it had an extra, none of these have a layout. So like in auth, this has an extra layout file that's changing the layout for these. But what I'm doing is I say want to group these layouts together because that's going to be grouped together in the app. Maybe I want the layout for these to be different, but I don't want it to be /forecasting/sales pipeline. I just want it to be /sales pipeline. So the parentheses allow me to group those layouts together without affecting the path or the URL. So that's probably a really roundabout way of getting at it, but it allows you to apply the same layout to that group, and you are not affecting the URL. So in this case, I've grouped the auth pages together, so it's still it's going to be /signup or /reset password. Here I'm grouping the gallery pages together. So you'll notice I don't have a page.tsx file in the root because this does not recognize a /gallery. It's just, this is the home page right there inside the gallery folder. And this layout file is affecting that particular thing. The part of the reason I did it this way here is I could have page.tsx outside in the app root, but the layout here, it's nested layouts. So if I want to use a specific layout for all of my gallery pages, I can't overwrite it or reset it if that layout file is in the root. And so that's why I ended up grouping those together so that this layout file is only affecting these pages. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I really do like it. I know some people have been like, "Ew, gross," or just trying to get used to it, but, I'm a fan. And, uh, like I said, I even kinda like the way that SvelteKit does it a little bit better with the pluses, but, um, that might just be personal preference. Cool. So, I opened up a few extra files here. I don't even know what got changed. I'm just gonna say don't save. Oh, I bet that has to do with, um, when I was moving things around. Okay, let me make sure that everything's back in a good place. Yes, felt is greater than React anyways. I, agree. I agree. I was this is the problem. I know a few frameworks, and so I will spend more time than I should trying to debate about what project to build on what framework. And I even have a few projects where I've, like, basically been building them simultaneously in multiple frameworks because I can't commit. But whenever I go to SvelteKit, it's always like, "Oh, there's so much less code," and it just feels so much cleaner. So I agree with you. Okay, so here, I just wanted to double check on the gallery page. So we're pulling this content yeah, totally right. Um, Yeah, so I'm making the get Xata client call outside of the function, but I'm actually referencing the API inside of our page component. So I wanna make sure that I get the order right on this. So I'm going to get Xata client outside of our page component, but then we can reference this. And the nice thing is it is, changing the query call based on what the view is. So here I've filtered all of our elements. So it's filtered within the query. And you can also kind of change things around here if you were looking for something specific. But we want to query all of the records where they are approved. So I'm going to copy this. Now we probably could just grab all the records and do a like one database call, but I'm going to split this out for right now. So I'm gonna say get approved, or we'll say not get approved, we'll call this approved records, and then we'll actually do another call. Like I said, we probably should just do this in one call, but it'll be fine. Um, unapproved records where is approved is gonna be false. Now, the reason that our select statement looks like this, um, it looks like it's not crazy about our data. I think it just doesn't know, like, TypeScript wise what we're giving it. So I can come back and fix this later. Oh, you know what? Let's see. Part of the problem is Zeta is not in the home. Like it's looking in the same folder for that Zeta file. So this is actually, I think I can just do at Zeta. Yeah, that made all the TypeScript errors go away. So I have at set up as an alias for anything inside of our source directory. Is it faster to query the DB or get all and filter stuff? That's a great question. I don't know. I haven't done any performance requests or performance tests. Usually, what I will I know I didn't do it in this project. Usually, I'll defer to making as few database calls as possible because that's like a HTTP loop. And I think the less requests you can make, I know that when you start talking about like lighthouse scores and things like that, that's one thing that Google checks is how many HTTP, how many database requests, API requests are you making? So I think it would honestly, I think it would be better if we just did a single request. Hey, Zane. And actually, now that we're talking about it, I really feel convicted to fix this. So, I will remove that line and we will just select all. Okay, so here we have all of our records, and what I will do is, we can filter this out. So, I am trying to think the best way to do this. We could save it in state, that might be overkill. You know what? Let's create a function. We'll say get, uh, approved records, and we'll pass in, um, the records that we want, and I will use our oh, we can just return here. So we're gonna filter. This is a JavaScript array. We're gonna what that does is it loops over everything, and for each iteration, we can refer to that as a single record, and then it's going to return what, based on whether this is true or not. So if we say that, uh, is approved as a Boolean, so it's going to return true or false. So we can just say depending on whether record is approved or not. So we're getting approved. That's perfect. So I'm going to save that. And then we can duplicate this and get our unapproved records. And the only difference here is it's going to be the opposite. That should be good. I am getting a TypeScript error here because it thinks that record could be anything. It's not. I think I'm guessing here, but I think I can say type of records here. Let's see if this works. No, it didn't. I was just curious. Sometimes I will make up code to see if it works. Okay, I'm gonna check Xata because this is generating types for us, and it did generate a type of project. So I can say that this is going to be projects, and this is actually, yeah, that's right, with brackets. That should work. Did you mean project? I did not. Oh, I did mean project. Yours is already declared in the upper scope. I am passing it in though. I'll come back to this. Okay. Let's just get our code working one thing at a time. Okay. So here with our projects, what I wanted to do is I wanted to pass in our get approved records, and we're going to pass in our projects. And for is a projects here, this is going to be get unapproved records. And I'm going to change this from records to projects. So I'm going to hit FN F2, and that'll allow me to replace in VS Code. I can replace all instances of that. So I can change this to projects, and it'll change it in both locations. Yes, coding without coffee is like coding using only Notepad. I do have my coffee this morning. So, uh, but it's decaf. Okay, projects. So we'll hit replace on that. I love it, Zane, that you always ask about my coffee. So I don't know if you noticed this, but sometimes when you're in um, if like we're streaming on Fridays for the Compressed FM podcast and I see you pop in, I'll just casually drink my coffee. Uh, okay, but it's for you. I just want you to know that. Okay, I'm going to give this a save and let's see if this is working. I'm going to cross my fingers. This looks good, except this should have projects down here. This is great, but we have a bunch of projects that it did not return. So I'm going to let's console.log our records out and see what happened. I'm just checking. Okay, so because it's a server component, it's going to show up in the terminal and not in your browser. You noticed. Okay, good. So here we do have search retro games. Oh, it's only return. Oh, there's our other ones. Okay, so it should. Um, hmm. That's interesting. You know what? I wonder. Get unapproved projects. So it is getting everything in our records. Let me just see if I do this. I'm gonna make sure that it's not modify. I don't think it would modify. I mean, it's React. If I say, let me move this console into our unapproved projects so we can see, okay, is the problem what's being passed in or does it have to do with our filter? So I'm gonna hit refresh here. And if we come down, yeah, it's like filtering things out already, which is not stellar. So let's save these in state. That would probably help. So I'm going to say const use state. And what we're going to pass it is we're going to say approved projects and set approved projects. And then I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to say unapproved projects. We can do lowercase a. I think that's good. And then it needs to import state. Now, because we're using state, that means we have to, I don't know if this is going to work or not. Because I was going to say we have to say use client, but this is a page component. Yeah, it won't let us use state on a page component. Interesting. So let's think about this. Let's move the call into, let's change this. I'm gonna get rid of this. And we can still pass in records. That's fine. I'm gonna take this. Oops. Of all this, and I'll have our component determine what it should do. So let's just pass in projects like this. And if we can get rid of use state now. Still fine to passing in projects. It might want records. Weird. Oh, this is going to be records. That might have been part of the problem. Let's see. And it's kind of weird about TypeScript. Okay. Oh, I'm not passing in an avatar. Why was that not a problem before? Oh man, I think I made a mess. Let me undo this to what we had before when it was working. And then all we had to fix was our filter. Cyan, God, you were talking about multiple requests. This would actually be an instance where it would resolve that. Mark Huggins, what is up? Good to see you in the chat this morning. What are you guys working on today? Are you doing anything fun? Some of our leadership team for work is on vacation this week, and so it has been very quiet, which has been lovely. Oh, Junior, has that been rough? Sorry, Cyan God. It's such a weird time to be looking for a job right now. But I have a friend that works at a startup in Silicon Valley, and she was saying that a lot of the people that have been let go at some of those jobs, I'm sorry, are more on like the recruiting side of things and trying to staff up and sales and stuff like that. So, but I know it's not easy. Okay, so I think we got this back to what it was. Getting back in the swing of things, my cold from last week. Oh no, it turned into, that's miserable. So I've been out of commission, but finally starting to feel semi-human again. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. That's rough. I had a cold like a month ago, and I don't feel like I've had a cold since like a real cold since pre-COVID. And it was just like, oh, I forgot how miserable this is. Okay. So what is happening here is this is augmenting records, which seems strange. Let me try one other thing on this. Oh, you know what? We are passing in projects here. Oh, look at that. This is a problem. So before, what it was doing is it was taking our mocked data and passing that in and filtering it out. It's not passing in our records. So if we change this to records, I think that might fix the problem. And let's get rid of our mocked data so that's not confusing. And here we can change projects here to records. Actually, let me duplicate this and we'll change this to projects. There we go. Let's see. Now it doesn't like our avatar. So that's why it was fine before, but not now. Cool. That's great. Last 15 days. Oh yeah, that's a cold, flu, COVID. Oh man, that's awful. I hate that that's going around. Okay, so with our contributor, we are passing over an avatar, but this is not an image. and this color does not line up with, our set of colors that we passed in, so that is why this is a problem. So if we pull up our avatar, we're forcing I think it's up here. Um, okay, yeah, we have theme colors, so it has to be one of these colors, and then the avatar itself needs to be like a source. So in our data, it is not doing that. So let's come over to Xata and let's fix our data. So I'm going to remove our filter here. And for our colors, let's see. A lot of these don't have a color. You know what would be better probably is if we put in, like if it doesn't exist, a default. And really we shouldn't have to have an avatar image because it will give us it'll use whatever color. So let's do this. Let's say if the color does not exist, oh, it should be fine. We're passing in a color. Maybe it is passing in. Let's see here. In our data, contributor ID null. Oh, so these don't even have related contributors. Lovely. Okay, so what I'm going to do is come down here and let's just, can I delete all these? Okay. Actually, I'm going to click delete all, and then I'm not going to delete these two. Cool. And then we can delete those selected records. And can I duplicate? It will not let me duplicate. I'm going to add a new record here just so we have one that's not been approved. Let's say our own project has not been approved. Made with data. Alt is required in your type. That's a good question. I will check that. Thank you for flagging that. True. Contributor ID. These are going to need to be flagged. Featured image. Let me see if I have place kittens. I do have a place kitten in my clipboard. And we just said this was a string, a delimited string. And then I'll put some lorem ipsum here. Project URL. We'll put this at Google, GitHub. And for order, I'm going to leave that blank for right now. Okay. And then on our contributors, this is part of the problem. I'm going to do this as alien armpit is one. And some of these I think I could probably just delete. Make sure that it is working correctly. I'll use these. This is the tedious part of code. Okay. I'm almost there. So how did I populate my DB? That's a great question. This is one of those fun features about Xata. So I'll do this on the project because I already have tags. Yeah, I'll do it here. So Xata has this really great button at the bottom that says generate random data. So if I click this and I'll do 5 records and I'll say generate, and it generated those 5. So that's why it wasn't necessarily formatted the way that I wanted it to. These are being populated. So there's a relationship. The nice thing about this is if I come over to my contributor ID, it's connecting to my contributor schema. So yeah, pretty cool, right? So if I come over to project and say I want to connect these, let's connect it to this one. It'll populate all these fields. So it's pulling these in as relationships. So I can pick a random person here. Random person. I already picked that one. And here we go. The other fun thing is like this was flagged as a email field. So it plugged in emails for all of these, which is really cool. Um, yeah. So let's see how this is. I think I'm still going to get an error on this. Yeah. Error reading avatar. Let's see what we have on my, let's check my data. Oh, this is lovely. It is awesome. Unless you get an error like this. Okay. Only plain objects can be passed to client components from server components. Classes or other objects with methods are not supported. So this goes back to what we were talking about with um, uh, server components versus client components. And I think my project grid is a client component, but it's not crazy about this data that I'm passing over. So let me see here. Let's do this. I'm going to comment some of this out. Um, let's leave that. That's fine. This is where I'm checking my project. So I'm going to comment that out. That's good. Okay, now if I come back, so all this is doing is it's checking to see. So one of my props that I'm passing in is like, hey, is it approved? And if it is, it shows the approved table heading. If it's not, it shows the unapproved. And then it maps over all the projects that I passed in. So what I thought we could do is let's figure out where the problem is. So it still is not crazy about our data. And I wonder if it's has to do with this filter. Um, or maybe it just doesn't know what to do with some of these other things that we're passing it. Okay, let's see here. Warning, only plain objects can be passed. So is it because I have a sub object? I think that was a problem. Let me do this. I'm going to remove our contributor ID because that's where it's getting like a nested object. And let's see if we're still getting our error. Yep. It's still not crazy about that. Let's try this. I'm going to just start listing out. So instead of selecting everything, I'm just going to select what we need. And really, we don't need everything anyways. We just need what's on here. So we need featured, we need our project name, we need our contributor information, which I'll come back to that since that is a nested object. We need our tags, which we can come back to that because that's also a nested object. So if I save that, um, let's see, invalid comments, column not found. What we can do here, I don't know if I spelled something wrong. Oh, I also need an ID. Is I think I can say, like with this, let's see, columns, I think I can hide what I don't need. So if we don't need contributor, if we, I'll hide featured for right now. Slug is approved. I think we want that. Yes, I think you're right, Cyan God. So if I hide these things, let's see, is approved featured. Okay. If I do this, I believe it'll generate the code snippet for me, which I think that's what I had. Except maybe, let's see, I'm going to grab this when we want all records. So this will kind of be the dummy test or sanity check and string inside the array. Ah, got it. Ah, I see what I did. Well, this is still giving me an error though. Oh, but that's different. We are getting our data. Okay. It doesn't like only plain objects. Let me just do projects in general. See if it doesn't like the fact that I'm trying to parse it. I think doesn't like the type on this. Yeah. Let's see. I'll it's still having trouble with this. I seriously think, well, started to say I think this is a I'm gonna Google this. Only plain objects. Whole thing. It's not I'm not Googling it inside of VS Code. Okay. And this is, I think, a next 13 thing. Okay. So server components are great for fetching data, which is what we're doing. Which also made me wonder, Cyan God, after I said, made that comment about HTTP requests, all of this is happening on the server. So we might be trying to filter for no reason. Because by the time it delivers all that information to the client, it's just going to the database. It's not doing an HTTP request. Let's see. We're not using any on clicks or hooks. It's still here. I'm going to get rid of this. It still doesn't like whatever I'm doing. I need to read through this, but I did want to see if there's like just a Stack Overflow. Like, give me the, the TLDR on this issue. That's related to use effect or use state, which I already knew about. So I don't think that's what I want. I think it doesn't like something that I'm passing over. Let me comment this out. I'm pretty sure if that's gone, everything's happy. And this is fine. It's like, okay, I know what to do with this data. So maybe it has to do with my data formatting. So here, I'm going to pull this up in a multi-pane. Let's slide this over and see exactly what we're looking for here. The problem here, let's see, is approved. That's not required. We have that set to true by default. We're passing in projects. And wonder where that project is getting defined. This is coming from our global.d.ts file, which I almost wonder if we could get rid of this now because Xata returned is already parsed and everything. Yeah, I think so. I think I can get rid of this because Xata has a project definition, and I would rather it be in sync with what Xata is returning. Let's just see what happens. So I'm going to, now I can't find it, but that's because I need to import a type from Xata. Let's see if this works. That helped. So that got rid of that error. This is being run on the client. Why does it not like project row? Is defined but never used because I'm commenting it out. Here it's going to say it's defined but never used because I'm commenting it out. And then projects, let's see, why is this is declared but never used? Okay, so that's good. Let's see what happens if we hold on. First, let's remove project grid here. And let's see what we get. Okay. We got our error again. Warning. Only plain objects. I don't know what a plain object is. This is going to be a cliffhanger because I've got to go to my company stand-up. What is a plain object in JavaScript? Contains zero or it's an object. This is a TypeScript problem. The difference between object and plain object. Let's see. Plain old JavaScript object as plain object. Oh man, this is gonna be a cliffhanger, so I am gonna have to cut it short, but stay tuned until tomorrow. We'll figure it out. But thanks for hanging out. Mark, the Scion God, Zane, thank you for chatting it up. And so tomorrow I'll be back on at 9:15 Central and we will solve this. So stay tuned. Happy Wednesday.